The Out of Bounds Show podcast is presented by the premium cigars at Havana Smoke Shop. Visit their 2 locations, I-55 in Jackson and on the Res, for your premium cigar needs. Only at Havana Smoke Shop.
Let's do it.
This is the SEC Insider Hit. And it's presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue.
Oh, goodness. Arkansas. Whew. Somebody's calling the Hogs this weekend. Sam Pittman and Lane Kiffin both coached at Georgia and Alabama under Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. And they'll be taking their team on the road into their stadiums on Saturday. Do you feel it, Blake? Is it going to be an electric Saturday for you?
Go Hogs. Yes, sir.
You know, that's another great American success story.
Yeah, it is.
When you're an assistant for 30 years and you have an opportunity to be a CEO and you're successful. I mean, let's be honest. Most people didn't even think he would ever do much of anything.
Correct.
Nobody listening knew who he was.
Also correct.
He was the offensive line coach for Georgia at that time. He had been at Arkansas a few years before with Bielema. But, yeah, I mean, Blake, this guy, who knows how long it lasts. But he's on a roll, and he's beat Texas and Texas A&M this year. And last year he beat Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
That's right. He's just dominating the locale, nearby states. He's just destroying them. First Mississippi, now Texas.
It's a remarkable story. You do this does not happen.
Yeah,
you don't, in your late 50s, as a career assistant in football, you don't get hired by major college football program. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable, especially to be I know Arkansas is not like Southern Cal in Florida, but like it's a top 30 job at worst.
Right.
That is typically
ton of
not
money.
Your first job. Yeah.
No, I mean, I could see him going to
FAU or Sam Houston State.
Houston State.
Yeah.
Yes, I could see
Austin
that.
P. Right.
But not. You don't go from the Georgia offensive line coach to the head football coach at Arkansas and then make it all happen.
That's all he's literally never been anything. Like, he's had the associate head coach title.
Yeah, but that
attached.
Doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's
like
attached
being a vice president in a bank
to his O-line title. But he's never been an OC. He's always been an O-line coach. And then at times he's also been an associate head coach, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Which is just a way for them to pay you more.
So he's making over $3 million a year. Do you think he ever 2 years ago? Did you think he ever thought he would make over $3 million a year?
Can't imagine that he thought that.
Okay,
it's incredible. His again, started out coaching high school offensive line in Oklahoma and Missouri.
High school offensive line coach, then went JUCO.
Yep.
For a while.
He coached as a head coach. He coached 21 games in junior college as a head coach.
Wow.
And that was back in the late 80s, early 90s.
And he was 11-9-1.
Yep.
Okay. I missed out on the Valley of the Sun, I guess, playoffs or something at Hutchinson CC in 93, but I'm sure it was epic.
Then he makes a couple stops at Northern Illinois, Cincinnati, Western Michigan. Just, again, offensive line coach.
Right.
Just chugging his way up the ladder. And, he really never got, again, even when he was at Tennessee in 12 and then Arkansas 13 to 15 and Georgia 16 to 18, he's still just an O-line coach.
Right.
And I say just, like, by the time...
That's a great gig.
Once you got into the 2000s, it became a lucrative job.
Right.
Absolutely.
You're right. Before that, you didn't get paid. But now we have offensive line coaches that can make $600,000-$800,000.
Yeah.
Plus.
But then
doubt.
to get pulled, he's at Georgia as the O-line coach from 16 to 19. And then with everything that happened with Lane Kiffin kind of diverting his plane, so to speak, mid-flight, instead of landing at Fayetteville, they land in Oxford, and that leaves Hunter Yurachek, brand new AD at Fayetteville in Arkansas, leaves Yurachek holding an empty bag, and he's got to scramble and he's got to make a hire quick, and they come up with O-line coach Sam Pittman, who's famous for, at the time, yelling, "Go Dogs."
That's right. He would do it with Kirby.
When they would sign a recruit,
video, yeah,
he would do a video where he'd be like, "Go Dogs," ho, ho, ho. And he'd like, and they would.
He was the ultimate bull in the ring coach.
And they would almost the other coaches you could tell were kind of laughing at him, not with him.
Yes, both.
Both. Like they were. There was a little bit of like, aha, look at like this is the guy at the car lot when you're selling cars. This is the guy who like slams 2 energy drinks and then smashes a can against his head every morning.
Absolutely.
But he still is like the third best salesman in the division. He goes
out and he sells 9 trucks
that
day.
But he's like, you think he's wired on like illegal substances the whole time because he's so out there. He's so crazy. That was Sam Pittman. He was a character. He was kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And then Arkansas hires him,
and they love him. And he only went 3-7 last
year.
Correct,
but he beat
2 of those wins,
Ole Miss and State.
Yeah,
and it was a team that it was a program that had been listless for the previous 4 to 5 seasons.
That's true. Chad Morris had no personality. Sam Pittman is a guy who can travel around the state and connect to Arkansas Razorback fans wherever he is. He can be in a 5-star steakhouse, or he can be out in the middle of rural whatever with the barbecue sandwich with the sauce dripping down his arm.
Yep.
And a cold Miller Lite selling Arkansas football.
Well,
now he's not scared to throw down in the street. He is known as a ferocious recruiter.
Yep.
And he did coach a very cerebral position in O-line. I mean, to me, he is light years from Ed Ogeron.
I mean, so far he's looked that way. He's allowed his coaches to coach.
I know Ed's got a national championship, but Joe Flacco and Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson have Super Bowl rings.
And it took him making the mistakes at Ole Miss. See, what you got to remember is this is, for Sam Pittman, this is like when Orgeron was hired at Ole Miss. It's his first job. It's not, so it's not quite the same as when Orgeron, he knew more when he got hired at LSU. Whether or not he put that into practice, it's still up for debate. But he, in theory, knew more than when he was hired at Ole Miss originally.
Yeah.
Did Ed Orgeron. He should have. He had been through 10 more years of learning.
No, fair enough.
But Sam Pittman has never done this. And for him to not only land Odom and Bryles and make that whole thing work on that side, on offensive and defensive coordinator, like you said, he has the state of Arkansas in tears when they beat Texas. Because that's the type of emotional, like rah-rah, bleeding heart guy. Anybody. Yeah, that's who Sam Pittman is. He can get you emotionally invested to the point of you're willing to run through the brick wall.
Barry Odom ran circles around Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach last year
with less talent.
I don't know about that, but
certainly than Ole Miss.
Yes, but I don't think so necessarily on Mississippi State. But anyway. We'll continue to talk about that. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue. The official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds show. SEC Insider Hit this morning is powered by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. I've got Blake Mania with me. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. I guess I am. And Mike Detillier will be on at 8:30. Mike D, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. And we will talk about the Saints, and LSU has a big game against Auburn in Baton Rouge. Big game against Auburn in Baton Rouge. I was talking, Blake, yesterday afternoon. I was talking with the Mississippi State alum and fan who actually uses logic and reason. And he went, hey, man, I listened to the show and the podcast, and we hadn't caught up in a while. And he said, when did Mississippi State football fans lose their mind? And I said, I guess somewhere around, Dan Mullen taking them to a certain level. He said, yeah, I'm talking to my friends, and they're all in this, Leach can't coach, need a new quarterback, this, that, and the other, which is both nonsense. If you didn't have Will Rogers right now, You just think you're struggling. If you didn't have Will Rogers right now and you had what I call a typical Mississippi State quarterback from the last 100 years for the most part, yeah, you'd be in a bad spot. And if you can't see the fact that they're getting better and the passing game, then, what do we do? But he said, so I'm talking to my friends, and I don't know why I'm having to talk them off the ledge. I think what's interesting is the narrative in the state, obviously, is Ole Miss and Lane Train are doing all these amazing things. Lane's got a chance to get a huge win this weekend, Blake. Leach has, out of the two tenured coaches, Leach has the two better wins.
Correct.
LSU and North Carolina State.
Correct.
Ole Miss is a better team, and they're better on offense. They hadn't beat anybody. Nobody. Hadn't beat one team worth of you-know-what.
Yep.
South Carolina last year, driven by Will Muschamp, who was fired. Vanderbilt. South Carolina was terrible. Awful football team. Vanderbilt, not any good. Kentucky wasn't any good. Mississippi State wasn't any good, had 46 players. Indiana lost their starting quarterback. They were Kentucky light in the SEC. This year, Louisville, Austin Peay, and Tulane. Tulane just lost to UAB. We now realize that Oklahoma's not real good. And that whole week one deal, there wasn't a lot to it. Mm-hmm. Now, this week you get a chance. Next week against Arkansas, you get a chance. Next week against
the next 5 weeks.
At Tennessee, you get a chance to beat somebody. Hadn't beat anybody. Haven't beat one good team.
Yep.
Now, you got a high-flying, I think you got the best quarterback in America, and I think you got the best offense in America. But this is unbelievable. It doesn't take much for Mississippi State fans to allow this to happen to themselves. Well, we'll see. We'll see. They're going to have a great opportunity this weekend. It goes Bama, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, Auburn. If they run it or go 4-1, what, Blake? They'll be number 2, 3 in the country?
Yeah, they'll be right up there.
Just depending on what Notre Dame does and Oregon and a couple other teams. You beat Alabama this weekend, you're right there. But South Carolina's awful last year. Vanderbilt's could be the worst Power 5 team in the country. Kentucky wasn't any good. Mississippi State wasn't any good. It's interesting what has happened. I cannot wait to see what happens this weekend and what plays out the next few weeks. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line is 601-707-3750. Will Rogers is a true sophomore. The guy has looked good. All these quarterbacks that we talk about, how many of them step in their first year or two? I don't mean redshirt sophomore. That's a big difference between true sophomore. Every year in college is, some kind of big jump physically and mentally. Does Will need to let it rip more? Yeah. Does he need to kind of catch the open receiver at the right time? Sure. But he also needs some receivers to catch the ball when he does hit them.
Correct.
But he's playing well. And so he just happens to be in a state with the best quarterback in America at the college level.
Yeah.
In Matt Corral, who's 2 years older than him and has a bunch of fun toys. And Sanders and Drummond are either what? Are they COVID 5th years or COVID 6 years? They're older. These guys are 22, 23 years old. And that's what you want.
Yeah, and I think what you just mentioned too that you've expounded on, but still it's hard for people to wrap their brains around, is that Will Rogers, again, it's like you have to think of him as a freshman, he's essentially a freshman because he's played 10 games to this point. So he's ending his freshman season. Most guys don't play until they've watched 30 games, right? You're watching 2 full seasons usually before you get on the field.
24 to 26
he
games.
He didn't watch any. He watched 4 games and
Eli
then was on the field.
Did. Matt Corral did, among others.
Yeah. It's the nature of the beast. And so we had someone tag us in this on Twitter, and it's expected points added, essentially. Like, are you playing above what your the average QB would do in your position, yes or no?
No question.
And Will was 5th in EPA. Essentially, he's doing way more than the average person in his position would do. It's just hard to accept that when you lose, like you said, beating LSU last year and then coming back and losing the way you did to Arkansas. It's deflating. Beating NC State and La Tech this year and then losing to Memphis, it's deflating. And so the fan base has trouble differentiating between the positives and just the fact that you lost a game.
Right.
And that's, I mean, as fans, we're wired to it's wins and losses first.
Sure.
And everything else second.
Yeah. And are we more emotional than we've ever been, or we can just see it now on Twitter and social media?
Can it be both? Can it be that we're more tied in to our teams even more over the last 2 years because of everything that's happened and losing all of a baseball season, feeling like we lost part of a football season with just the chaotic nature of the way everything played out and not having fans at most games? And so, I mean, yeah, I think we are even more tied into what our sports teams are doing right now.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely the case. And I think, too, whether it's fair or foul, there's a little bit of a resentment probably where State fans had this great high of winning in baseball, something they've never experienced, and it's almost surreal. And you come back to football, and there might be, even though it's not Leach's fault, a feeling of a letdown because you just want so desperately to be good at football, too.
Right.
That
was well said. You didn't bring it yesterday, but today,
I was saving the max efforts for Dak Prescott on the Max Effort Monday.
Dak played great last night, but he wasn't the only one. The Dallas defense was good. The running game, the offensive line was really good and opened up holes for Zeke. And, of course, Dak had a very efficient, good night and threw some dimes. And he looked good running around on that ankle/leg. Blake.
Yeah, and I like that he slid down a couple times.
I do, too. He took a shot running towards the end zone right inside the 5, which I did not love. It's going to be virtually impossible to get all of that out of him just because of the way his competitive nature and the way he's wired. Other than that, I agree with you. I thought he made great decisions all night. I love the chemistry that he's building with Dalton Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how long is Gallup out, Blake?
Minimum another 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. I think he can come back week 5.
Well, I got to give Cedric Wilson credit, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, Amari and CD can play. But Dalton Schultz is kind of emerging as another fun target for Dak Prescott. You could tell Zeke had a wake-up call. Tony Pollard looked great out in Los Angeles when they played the L.A. Chargers. And Zeke looked really good. That was his best game, Blake, in probably, 2 years?
Yeah, I would say easily.
Yeah.
Easily 2 years.
He looked a little quicker and ran with a sense of urgency and, was hitting the hole, getting some pop, and yards after contact, too, Blake.
That was the final thing. He broke he broke tackles where you felt like he's been falling backwards a lot over the last 2 years. And this game, he truly ran through people for the first time in what felt like an eternity. I mean, it felt like forever ago that he was running through people, and he finally did that again. So it's a positive.
Ole Miss fan let's switch gears one more time. Sorry. Ole Miss fan on the agup.com text line. Bo, we will be happy to trade our backup for Will Rogers, and basically saying that he would love to have Will Rogers just in case anything happens to Matt Corral.
Yeah, duh.
no doubt Will would be the guy, on that roster after that. So I think, look, Will's going to gain 10 more pounds in the offseason, and that'll be even better and, stronger, and he'll be even better throwing the ball 20 and 30 yards down the field, which at the end of the day is about all that you need to do. But gutty dude. And also told, that Leach has basically told him you can't run the football because they don't have anybody behind him. Once Jack Abraham had his injury over the summer, that was a pretty viable backup, Blake, out of Oxford High School / somewhere else, and then Southern Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happened, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that Leach understands I can't lose him.
Yeah.
I mean, we may not be winning as many games as we want to win, but he gives us an opportunity a lot of times to win a game. And there's just nothing behind him right now. People, and we said this in the spring and summer, Sawyer Robertson was never going to come in and compete for the job this year. What happens in the future, who knows? I think it's going to be extremely difficult once Will gets another, are we 4 games in?
Yeah.
8 games under his belt.
He'll be a full 2 full seasons.
2 full seasons and 10 more pounds. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to beat him, but we'll see. He and Sawyer can battle it out in the spring and in August next year.
He's got 3 years of eligibility left after this, too. You got to remember. Because 2020 didn't count. So this is, on the field, this is Will Rogers' freshman season of eligibility. So it's hard to deny. I mean, Leach's whole system is built on the premise that your QB has full autonomy and full knowledge of the offense, like Gardner Minshew did when he finally got to Washington State. That'll be interesting to see how Leach does that.
That's true. No doubt. All right, Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue, the official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds show. We'll have Mike Detillier, Mike D, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike will join us on the Modelo guest line. Now, what did you tell me? It's National Drink Beer Day?
It is. It's National Drink Beer Day.
Okay.
Which is important to know.
It is important. This kind of reminds me of Sam Pittman. Well, among other football coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Right? All right, so it's National Drink Beer Day. We have 2 new taps in studio, in the Bank Plus studio. We have Sam Adams Oktoberfest, and we have New Belgium. We've got the Ranger IPA over there.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have either Coors Light or Miller Lite. So it's National Drink Beer Day, and we already had National Beer Day like a few weeks ago.
I don't really understand all the days, but the differentiation, I guess, is today you're supposed to drink the beer.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you handle that?
I'll try. Nice. It is Taco Tuesday, so it'd be nice to go get a Modelo and a taco.
Let's do that.
Modelo
well,
and
now
taco.
you've booked meetings for. I'm going to be here till 1 o'clock today because you've got.
Well, you complain when I don't book meetings, and now you're complaining when I book meetings.
Unbelievable.
So you can't have it both ways.
Unbelievable. I mean, we've got to be here all day. And I was here till 4 yesterday. What do people want from me?
I don't know. Joey wants to let everyone know that he says State's upsetting A&M this weekend. So we've got our first upset call on the text line. It's only Tuesday morning in the first hour, but we've got our first upset of the weekend call.
Upset. What is that line?
I think it's 6.5 or something like that. Let me find it for you again.
All right. So MSU at A&M. It's a night game. College Station. Of course, since they added on, it's like 105,000 people, just like Bryant-Denny. So 2 tough places to play. Ole Miss at Bama, 2:30 CBS. Mississippi State at A&M.
That line's up to 7.
It's up to 7.
Yes.
Okay. God, what's the over-under on that game? 19?
47.5.
Okay.
It's 30 whole points lower than the Alabama-Ole Miss one.
Wow. Yeah. 2 offenses that are struggling in MSU and A&M, and 2 offenses that are rolling in Ole Miss and Bama. The Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, is brought to you by the Purple Mattress at Muskelly Sleep Store and Muskelly Furniture. The Purple Mattress. We've been sleeping on one the last 3 months. Love it. Check it out today at any of the Muskelly locations. The Purple Mattress at Muskelly Sleep Store and Muskelly Furniture. Mike D, Mike Detillier, coming up 8:30 on the show.